Youcef Bouandel, who's a professor of political science at Qatar University. Thanks so much for coming on the show. First of all, your reaction to this news?
Well, like almost the majority of Algerians, I was surprised by the turnout to begin with. The official figures put it at 39, closer to 40. But given the pictures coming out from Algiers and reports from Algiers, the opposition, I think that is very much exaggerated. The second thing is that maybe the contest could have gone to the second round because the electoral system in Algeria follows the same electoral system as in France. So given that, for instance, Ali Ben Flies, for instance, who was a former prime minister and twice candidates for the presidential election, took part. There's also Ben Grina, who represented the Islamic current in Algeria. Maybe a second round could have been more acceptable. And the third one is that the margin by which Mr. Tebboune won, which is closer to 60%, and all of these put a question mark on at least the results. Like your report said, many Algerians were against those elections, and they saw that Tebboune is simply an extension of the former regime headed by former President Abdelmadjid Bouteflika.
And those points that you raise, all those question marks that exist, and the anger on the streets leads me to the question: how long can he hold on to power then?
I mean, as far as if we're talking about from a constitutional point of view, he will be in power for five years. That's what the presidential mandate is. Obviously, the Hirak or the Algerian streets are completely against it. Like we saw today, after the results were announced, huge demonstrations throughout Algeria, and there are so many issues that this new president has to deal with. What will he do? That will depend. That will obviously get some reactions from the streets. Tackling corruption is a very, very important issue, and I don't think that Tebboune will be in a position to do so. Who is he going to appoint to his new government? That's a very, very big question. What is he going to do with these elected assemblies at the different levels, including the parliament, which is perceived by so many Algerians as illegitimate, and so many business people bought their seats in this particular parliament?
But Youcef,
is quite a different issue. So
I just want to ask,
yes,
because earlier I spoke to a member of the opposition in Paris, and just seeing the anger also of people on the streets, allegedly the low turnout. Do you think he'll really stay in power? Won't there be calls for him to step down?
There are calls for him to step down already, because so many people see him as illegitimate president who does not have any legitimacy whatsoever. The Hirak has been calling for the whole system to go, but as we can see that the system is still in place. There are calls for him to step down, but he will say, and his supporters yesterday said, that we won it by the force of law. In other words, we played the democratic game and we won the presidential race, and therefore Mr. Tebboune, as far as the constitution is concerned, as far as the results of these elections are concerned, is there for the next 5 years. Whether he will stand the calls or not will depend on what he does. I believe that legitimacy has never been a particular issue in Algerian politics. What Tebboune needs to do to gain some sort of legitimacy is to deliver on some of his electoral promises. Okay. Whether he can do that or not remains to be seen.
All right. Youcef Bouandel, political science professor at Qatar University. Really great to get your perspective on the Algerian elections. Thank you.